Chapter 5. Man and His Symbols. The fight ended in a bitter scuffle, a most unpleasant turn of events that forced Anyi's father into a speech. It was not common for the priest guide to speak, not directly to the people anyway. As he rose from the throne he sat on, even the drunkest found quiet, eyes all around sharpening with focus. It is a shameful thing what we have seen here today. My eyes water with pain. The crowd made a noise like a sad wail, and groaning could be heard too. A few breaths passed and it was quiet again. We have known from the great ape men, when you throw your opponent on the ground, leave him be and rise immediately. The point is already won. He turned to catch the eyes that watched, and when it hovered over the area where his daughter stood next to Anyi, the boy wished he was made of clay, or better yet, that he was made of air. It is a great taunt too, the priest guide continued, to wrestle a man to the floor and then to put sand in his mouth. It is dirty, Alu. Lips bent to frowns, and murmurs floated about. In Anyi's mind, the moment flashed again. The bigger man had kept a grudge from the first round and the stain on his back. He had seen it in his eyes thereafter, a bitterness. Anyi had seen it too. Ah, it is looking like this one wants to kill him, or at least really hurt him, she had remarked. The body artists did their best to paint the wrestlers to appear fierce. In only a pair of loin covers, they had a whole body for a canvas to do as they wished. Animal themes were common, the tiger being the most referenced for obvious reasons. The bigger man wore a body marked with symbols belonging to Ekwensu, fire, metal, coins, and an uneven measuring scale, among other things. His face was painted red with the blood of a sacrificial goat. Ekwensu, the spirit of war and maker of deals, was never to be consulted by children. The man licked his lips and wagged his tongue with rage that shone with madness in his eyes. The smaller man had seen the change. He could not have missed it. No one watching could. But his initial victory filled him with confidence. This was a mountain he could move. He had, after all, already moved it once, toppled it even. What followed was a thrashing. The bigger man leaned into his weight with anger and bloodlust. In the places he had grabbed his opponent, his fingers dug in to spill red. The grapple scuffle did not last very long. The smaller man soon lost his footing after being swayed left and right under the crashing weight of what Anyi imagined felt like struggling with an elephant. He slipped on his back heel, and the heavier wrestler followed him down. The two hit the ground, the weight of one man on the other. "Onye Allah," were the words mouthed from the bigger man before he packed a fistful of clay and forced it in his opponent's mouth. This was when the priest guide shot out of his seat, and all the men standing nearby rushed into the circular ring to restore sanity. This was why the priest guide was tearing up. How can one who knows not the taste of defeat wish to know the taste of victory? Can you know night without day, or bitter without sweet? The offending wrestler now stood with his head hanging low as the words of admonition continued to rain. "I would have asked you to come to my obi later, but no. You may not do the evil in the open and wash your hands in secret." The priest guide looked around again, and this time Anyi caught the white paint over his right eye and how similar it was to Nyala from the cave. Perhaps it was a special symbol among great spellers, a sign of an all-seeing eye. Do we rape the wives of our enemies and say it is a spoil of war? Do we take blades to the throats of children while their fathers watch? Manbanu, no. Voices spoke up, and the snapping of fingers could be heard made to the ground, a gesture that spoke of abomination. "Wrestler, you have offended your neighbor, your tribe, and the spirits. We forgive you, because though soiled, you are still a fruit on our tree. Your sin, though deep, did not cut to the root of who we are, so we forgive you." Is. The crowd chorused, a chant of agreement most commonly used after the declaration of blessings, before the breaking of kola, or the drinking of liberated wine. As for the spirits, the crowd was quiet. You should know that a sin against them is really a sin against yourself, your chi. You must study the teachings of the ancients, so that you may drink of their knowledge to purge the poison that has corrupted you, the poison of pride, hate, and violence. Hate. Erisa, the crowd chorused again. Lastly, the sin against your neighbor, and the greatest of the three, because neither the spirits or tribe can feel pain or shame. People nodded like the agama lizard, repetitively, as if only one would not be enough to convey their agreement. To your brother's Obi, you must take 3 kola nuts and a barrel of fresh palm wine. You will kneel before him, and you will offer him this. You may not rise until he accepts, and if he doesn't... The crowd was silent. At least you have held or for him, and your heart is clean. It is now only in his heart that the pain lives in, and it is not roped to you anymore. Izep! The crowd rose to its loudest. With that, the fighting was over and the music started again. People gathered in small groups and spoke in clusters. The old soon began to retire to their obis for the night. Anyi and his friends found a story cluster and sat by the fire to listen. It was an old woman doing the telling, Neisi, the blind library that housed so many stories. Tonight, she told one about Adam, a popular favorite. And so in the beginning, it was very different. The great ape men did not speak in the way that we do now. Though they had tongues and could sing songs, it is written that most of their words were unspoken. With the power of their divine minds, in direct contact with Amadioha, they could communicate in thought over vast distances through dreams, spirit whispers, and chi travel. They could speak to the earth, and it would quake if they asked it to. They could ask tides to calm, rain to hold, and even rumored for the sun to sleep. The children murmured amongst themselves. Adam the first of blue did not fall because he ate of some fruit to pull a scale from his eyes. The great ape men had since known good from evil. The mind of Amadioha is all-knowing. And they knew that mind directly, drinking from its wisdom in sleep and in wake. Adam fell because he peeled his eyes from the ground and faced it to the sky. He chose his own will over the will of Amadioha. He gazed upon what Amadioha had made, and he called it ugly, covering it in shame. He looked to the tooth of wild beasts, and he saw fear and horror. The same beasts the ape men rode on and commanded with speech. Adam decided that perhaps there is a way that is better than the way of Amadioha. Hence he betrayed his tribe from the root, earning him the casting out with all that believed in his truth. But what if he was right? Do we have a choice to be made free or not made at all? Or is it our destiny to be mere tools in the hands of Amadioha? Anyi wished he had not asked the question. As soon he heard it escape his mouth. But he had, and it was now late. Perhaps it was his chi that pushed him. Perhaps he just wanted to know. The blind old woman turned to his corner, but her eyes floated without focus. You do not have to ask for answers you can see for yourself. I am very fortunate to have gone blind. The sight of this world makes me want to weep. Possibly, I wept my way into blindness. The world today is dominated by the mind of Adam, the mind that ended the age of legends when Afaraka believed that what we got from Amadioha was really ours, our thoughts and our creations. It is when the very ground became property, taxable. It is when gold became more than just a thing that shines. Amadioha cannot force a people or person into his ways, but you must know, there is only destruction once you stray from the path. A mother may warn her child about the fire of the oil lamp, but it is the child's choice to heed or disregard. Amadioha has no use for you, he that thought Uwa into existence. Do not become like Adam who thinks too much of himself. It is you who has all the need for Amadioha. They listened to the rest of the story with no interruptions. And when it was done climaxing at the great flood that ended the Uga Awun, they began to shuffle back to their homes in small friendship groups. Anyi, what you asked about our will and Amadioha's will, Anyi started. Leave him, he just wanted to say something, Toby cut in. Toby, you are a useless friend, Anyi said. Anyi did not speak anymore until the other boys dropped off at their parents' obis. Anyi, I was going to say what you said about our will and Amadioha's will. Be very careful. That is the spell that broke the world, and is still breaking it. Do not be tempted by Anya. It was that word again, Anya. This Anya you keep going on about. Are you going to tell me what it means according to spellers? She smiled a little. When you get home, ask your father. He will tell you. Now they were in front of Onyi's obi, a large cluster spotting more buildings than Anyi could count. A place worthy for a king. A place no one man could keep forever. Anyi stood under the light of the moon shimmering across her forehead and glinting in her large eyes. If my eyes ever turn blue, Anyi, I want you to promise me that you will remind me of how I am. The request was abrupt, almost too direct for a people that preferred to speak in circles. Anyi, she motioned a circle over his head and then clicked her fingers to the ground. Tufia, I reject it. I will not hear any such talk from you again. Never. Do you know that words are spells? That at the mere uttering, they can anchor and become permanent. Anyi wanted to tell her about the things he had heard from Neela in the cave and the dreams his father had reported, but he said no more. As it was, her face was already folded in sorrow, and her voice sounded like it had broken with tears too. Perhaps her father had seen what was coming, and she already knew too. Or maybe it wasn't through her father's eyes. Maybe it was through hers. She, after all, did claim to possess Amma for Agwu visions. Anyi, leave that boy and come here now. A woman's voice called from inside. She smiled at Anyi. He smiled back. And then she scurried off to meet her mother. Anyi continued on his walk home alone, waving and bowing at the men that still sat outside, drinking with their horns and cups. Eventually, he was home. From the fires, he could tell what huts were occupied and what ones were vacant. Through a window, a silhouette could be seen of a woman getting her hair braided. He knew from the bean-like shape of both heads to belong to the first wife and her daughter. If you like, keep hanging about with Anyi. The day her father asks me to bring goats and strong wine, I will take it from your inheritance. His father's voice caught him from behind. Nanyi, she is just my friend. We are not going to marry. This is exactly what I said about my first wife, and my second, and then your mother. It is from clapping that the dance begins, from the humming that the singing starts. Me I don't know, oh. Anyi shrugged his shoulders and wondered why his face felt hot. His father took a swig from his drinking horn. Anyim afurum gina anya. He had wanted to leave, but that word rooted him to where he stood, Anya, again. Nanyi, Anyi says that Anya is a word with great spell meaning. I tried to find out from her what it meant, but she would not tell me. Will you? The older man sighed. What do you understand by Ifunanya? He asked the boy. To see with eyes. To love, Anyi replied. What a man sees and loves may kill or save him. The wise chooses well what to attract and what to repel. You see, love is the strongest of all the spells, and the ape men believed the eyes to be the main window through which it climbs into our spirit. Anyi furrowed to meditate on the word. He thought of all the things he loved. Beautiful sculptures, the view of the obis from afar with their colorful patterns, the sight of the heavens where the stars came out to shine, and Anyi's face ebony with the large brown eyes that reflected the moon. Be careful with your eyes. There is much that it sees, and much that it does not. For all the lamp that is the moon, behind it, there is darkness like no night can ever match in blackness. But Nanyi, how is any of this magic? Is it not just wisdom? To be careful of the eyes and its deceit. I thought it would be more. You are still too young to understand. They say the ape men turned water to stone and led to gold with their powers of transmutation and their secret knowledge of alchemy. We call it magic today. They probably called it wisdom. For the freedom to see as we please and the beauty to be seen as we are, fully and with love, even the weakest can find strength to pick up a sword. If it is magic to turn water to stone or lead to gold, tell me, what is it to turn the weak to the warrior? So when you say that you love me in our Eek tongue, you mean to say that you see me completely. I mean to say that I see you as I see myself, without separation. We are stuck as one, like the joining of the lids when we blink. When your eyes are closed, do you see any separation between you and the world? Anyi said nothing.